Today we're going to discuss learning during laning. This will be a fascinating topic because we clearly can't talk during laning. What about even learning during laning? So take a look in source number 9, page 293 of Sheshes, Mahadar Apie Vigaris. What would he do? Rav Sheshes, as the Gemara explains during laning, what would he do? He would turn his face around like this, and Garis, which means to learn. Amar anan bedidan ve'inu bedidan. I'm doing what I'm doing, what they're doing. Says Rashi, he would mahadar ape v'garis mishnaso shekorim b'sefer Torah. Now this is a contradiction to the Gemara that we saw 2 days ago, which you will hopefully recall. The Gemara in Sota. The Gemara in Sota, if you turn back one page, which is source number 1, kevan sheniftach sefer Torah asur l'saper fi b'dvar halacha shenemar ubatzchu amdu kolam ve'ena meidel shtika shenemar. So we see from here, based on the Gemara in Sota, that no, the laning begins, you're not allowed to learn. Or there's a contradiction between the Gemara and Sota. So the question, amdu ha'am v'shantku. The question is, what is that? Okay, so Aaron wants to perhaps reconcile two Gemaras. Tosfos will say, is there a contradiction between the Gemara in Sota and the Gemara in Brachos? That's source number 10. Let's take a look at this Gemara, but you're right, I think there might be ways to resolve this. So we're going to look, the Tosfos will bring the Gaonim who try to resolve this contradiction, which will have a tremendous impact on what must we do, what can't we do during laning. Take a look at this. V'im tomar v'arminam b'sota, my dichtiv v'atcham v'kol upatru ha'am amdu kolam kevan sheniftach sefer Torah asur l'saper fi l'dvar halacha. Here we go. That's the contradiction. Answers the Bali Tosfot the following. V'yesh lomar hatam. No. Irei bekol ram. The Gemara that's referring to the Gemara in Sota. It says, what does it mean that you have to stand and be quiet? That means you're not allowed to talk or learn bekol ram. Why? Because if I'm talking, or even if I'm learning, there's some people who learn out loud. Like they learn out loud. It's not a library. It's a base medrash. It's very disturbing. If a person's learning out loud, imagine, you can't use the laning. It's not appropriate. That is no contradiction. One is v'shatku, you got to be quiet. But our Gemara is saying, what do? You're learning, you're reading, and you're quiet. And our Gemara, in the Gemara in Brachos, is talking about where Rav Sheshes is learning quietly. Rabosa mashma, agad mahadar api sheniris kimin yosef for Torah, shaper dami, v'hai dahadadi afilu gedishi kavnu yirsaso. But it's not appropriate. What you're going to tell me? Yeah, but he turned around. It's not appropriate. There's a sefer Torah. He's turning around to learn. That's like it's not appropriate. So he said no. He was focusing on his learning, and it is okay. Wow. The Rav Alphys says, "Kasav tachi garsinan mefarshi davka sheish shamasar." No. Rav Alphys is saying, when Rav Sheshes was learning during laning, quietly to himself, it was only when he was number 11. That's what he says. You have to have 10 people who are hearing Kriyas Torah. Let's go back to what we said on Tuesday, the Chiv of the Tzibur. It's Varsha B'Gdush, you need 10 people. You're the 11th person. You can. Now, the problem is if everyone thinks that way, that's not going to help you, right? So, if everyone starts learning, that's not going to help. But okay. I guess you have points of it. Okay, you're the 11th guy, you can learn. Aval ein shamasara kim imo lo. But if he's the 10th man, he's not allowed to. V'acha mayre shu shamasara below. And we're talking about a case where there was 10, even without him. The od teret, and furthermore, the Rav Afasi said, Shani Rav Sheshes. No, Rav Sheshes is also a different category. We touched on this 2 days ago. Shetorasa umanusahu. I told you about this. This is the technical status, right, for people who accept from the army in Israel. Shetorato umanuto. That's the status in Israel. But here it's referring to a situation. Since Rav Sheshes, his Torah is his work. He's a Rosh Yeshiva. He's a Rav. He needs to, and I remember I mentioned this, that rabbis get very nervous. You're going to give a drasha. Laning is a very good time to look over your drasha. Especially when you're speaking, right, before myself. So laning of Torah, then your drasha. Then you got to discuss if you're going to speak later. What about your chashat hashatz? Can you look over your drasha? Okay, that's another topic. But we see from here, and the Bali Tosfos will conclude. I agree with Rabbi, since his Torah so is umanu so, perhaps also because he was number 11, therefore he was allowed to learn quietly and silently. We see from here that, according to the Tosfos, a person who's a Rav is permitted to learn during Kriyas Torah. provided that you're number 11 and that the 10 people who are there are actually paying attention.
Does it provide that you already heard learning?
That's an excellent question. We'll see that coming up. Very good. Good question. The Rambam writes in number 11 the following. We're just going to do 2 small sessions today because it is a little late. So we kind of we saw already. Shinamari quotes our pasuk that we saw before. Va'asur latzeis min haknesses b'shah shakora kora. When the Baal Korah is laning, you're not allowed to leave in the middle of shul. Can't leave during laning. Umotor latzeis ben ish leish. In between aliyahs, you're allowed to leave. Mish, and here's where the Rambam amalgamates the shita that we saw before from the Rav Alfas. Because remember, if it's brought down by the Tosfos, the Rambam wouldn't quote it, right? Or not necessarily quote it. But here, because it's brought down the Rav Alfas, he's going to quote it. Shehu osek b'Torah. Person who's osek b'Torah. Tamid. V'Torah so manuso. Mutar lo lasok b'Talmud Torah b'Shashakor b'Torah. The Rambam brings down the Rav Alfas and says, yes, if you are in fact a Rav, you're permitted to learn during laning. Wow. Look at that. It's Rambam, it's Rafas, it's Tosfos, it's pretty heavy shoulders. Not so simple. Take a look at the Shulchan Aruch. He will quote a Rambam almost verbatim. Once you start laning, you can't talk. The saper, if you're interested in the Shulchan Aruch, in source 12, you're not allowed to speak out laning. Even in between aliyahs, you're not allowed to talk. Even if it needs to fill in the parsha shvuah. There are those who say, again, this is based on Bilbul, that maybe you're allowed to read it silently. The Sefer Torah, if there's other 10 people, mutar l'saper, then you'd be allowed to besaper b'divrei Torah. V'yesh matir in the Mishnah Torah. So what does Shulchan Aruch do? He takes all the things and he kind of crunches it all together, right? He goes to Tosfos, he goes to Rambam, he goes to Rabbi, and he kind of meshes them all in. V'yesh matir in the Mishnah Kodem sheniftach Sefer Torah machzer panav, before the Sefer Torah is actually opened. So maybe we'll say in between aliyahs, we'll say during a Mishnah Berach, or maybe they just put it on the bima before they're getting organized. V'yazor, right? Mutar Sefer machzer panav umaras Moshe road to the Shema Sefer Torah ela likros. So if you're allowed to turn your head to learn, that's okay. But if you do that, and if you turn around and you say, listen, I'm not here to listen to laning, I'm here to learn, that would be permissible.
Is he giving halacha right now, the Shnei Mikra?
It appears that way.
I don't understand. Could you say that one more time?
Yeah, that it appears, according to Shulchan Aruch, that if a person needs to do Shnei Mikra, if a person wants to learn, then you could turn around, you could turn your head around, as long as you're showing I'm not listening to laning, like don't count me in, I'm not part of the minyan, right?
Interesting.
I'm in the shul, but I'm not listening to laning. Now, when is this for?
Is that
what is it for? Hold on, one second. For koze einyan the parshat zachar parshat para shehem basarad midoraisa shetzarach lachav lishuam mipnei korah v'nach. So really, this is all referring to what? When it comes to zachar and para, you have to absolutely be totally attentive. You can't learn, can't do anything during laning. However, really, you shouldn't learn during laning. You should really listen to the Baal Korah. Yes?
Is this contingent on you being up to date with the Parshiyot for Shnai Mikra? Because if you're behind, could you even consider it as Shnai Mikra for that week?
You can. If you miss a week, you don't just say, I surrender and wave a white flag. You say, I pick up the stuff. Wait. Yeah. Okay, so we see the Shulchan Aruch kind of meshes in all the different shitos together, and ultimately he says there's definitely what to rely on, especially if Torato Marato, to listen to be able to learn. Ideally, you shouldn't do it. Comes along the Piskei Tshuvos, which we've seen before. Piskei Tshuvos are actually a collection of various Tshuvos, and he's going to quote in 13 the Bir Halacha, right? After all those funny letters that often get messed up in our photocopying. Zesifu tochachas megula lo'osan anashim hamifkirim esh nafshosam. This is tochacha, this is mamash musar to those people who are mafkir their souls. Umesaprim b'sicha b'tela b'sakriya. This is a very powerful statement. This is Musar to those people that, shall we say, give up on their souls and all they do is schmooze during leaning. Wow, that's pretty harsh words. We should post that maybe in the minion. I don't know. In Ben Gavra separate Chaveru between Aliyahs talking to friends, and even going to come poskim, even with the Kama Yigdal Isser. How great is this Isser? And the Sefer Torah is mamash open. They're mamash laning. V'gadol avono means so, and the burden is too great to bear. Who said those words? Kayin. Very good. Wonderful. Right? Gam kama pamim. By the way, don't just think this was a problem maybe in 2015. It appears in the Bir Halacha, right? Who's the Bir Halacha? The Chos Chaim, 100 years ago, right? We're not talking, Middle Ages here. 100 years ago, also it was an issue. And then sometimes even people during Kriyas Torah are talking about Lashon Hara. Rechilus, Meirashan Vatzafan, bring it in. V'gam. Now he goes on. Now he's just like, he's on fire here. Tfilaso mitoeves avurzel lifnei Hashem, and his prayer is a toeva, it's abomination. Kidichtiv, and he quotes a pasuk. Fine. Kidichtiv meisid ozno mishmot Torah gan tfilato toeva. Okay, that's not sure where exactly he's quoting over there. Fa'ashri mi should no stand kavod la Torah. Okay, fine. Pretty strong words. Uba Zohar in Vayakel. Kad salig sefer Torah letaman. Kedin. Okay, just go down. You'll see. Go down 3 lines. He explains it all. Here, go to where the brackets are. Right. In Rashut lekahal liftoch pihem ledivrei Torah. V'koshegin the Zohar Hakadosh says no. You're not allowed to liftoch pihem. Again, you're not allowed to talk divrei Torah at all during laning. Everyone has to look at the brackets. You have to during laning. You have to stand be'ema, fear factor, as if you don't have a mouth. Quiet. You have to be silent. Wow. Kasav the Ramah, the Nagu Hamedaktigim. Lehitnoa b'shak shakorim b'Torah. What would people do? They would. I think that means the shako. Dugma Torah shenitnetz be'retes. We saw this before too. That just like the Torah was given with fear, they were shaking, right? They were shaking. B'mar Sinai. So too, when we Kriyas Torah, we should shackle as well. People think that's like a joke, but it's true. There's Indian to dafka shackle during Kriyas Torah. It also keeps you awake if your coffee is run out a little bit. You should pay as attentive to laning as you are, as if it's for Mikra, Megillah. This is something why I believe is the source for why we have Aliyah cards, and there's other reasons perhaps for it, but here's one of the reasons why. There's a Gabbai here. We got it. Gabbai. Oh, by the way, speaking of Gabbai, laning for Shabbos?
Taking care.
Beautiful.
For me, took like the whole portion.
Okay, fine. V'yesh limnoa Gabbai. says the Gabbai in Shul should be prevented when we shargabate staka, and even staka people, soft staka. You cannot collect money for tzedakah during laning. It is not appropriate. Mishum you're confusing people. The Gabbai is going to go over and say you have shlishi, you have revi, you have. It's too confusing. I guess on days where there's more than revi, then you're also not collecting tzedakah. I don't think, right? Because usually it's excessive. But up until revi, once you get past revi, then up until revi you can collect tzedakah, then you get into yantif. Okay, fine. So we don't need to read. The only thing is, though, and I think this is important, especially for the societies that we live in, shmuzing between aliyahs in our time, when we are marach mishaberach, which we do, that's a common practice. This is amalamed zchus, because when the Rishonim, perhaps the Zohar, are talking about situations where in between aliyahs, it was 4 seconds. It was literally how long did it say Yamod, Ploni ben Ploni, and that's it, and he showed up. So for that short period of time, to start shmuzing was inappropriate. But now, when we have Misha Berach, your mother, your father, your bubi, your aunt, right? The rabbi, okay, so it takes more time. Malamed zchus, people just don't have the ability to focus. Omnam, ein heter amur ela dibur shel tzorach. What's the heter? So here is where we see a middle ground. There's Divrei Torah now we're going to see will be permitted. Then we're going to see it's Asr to Shmuz. But what about L'tzorach? Exactly what's L'tzorach? I'm not quite sure. Did the Blue Jays win? I don't know if it's L'tzorach. V'gam zeh rak inyan katzar. Should be quick. Otherwise, you're going to miss what happens if you start shmuzing, get distracted. You're going to be shmuzing, you're going to miss Baruch. Okay.
Even this is a b'diavad.
And this appears, he tries to Lamed Chus, right? Tries to b'diavad, right. But he says it's hard. It's, what's it called? It's long. Especially during Yontiv, especially during, Shabbos, Rosh Hashanah, Kippur, they really take longer. Okay. Armenia, we don't, we do one Mishaberach, it's pretty quick. But in certain places, as you know, one Mishaberach, and then you do another one for a guy who gives a donation. Okay. Fine, I think we got the, that's actually go to the second, let's go to the second paragraph here at the bottom. The last paragraph of Beis. L'inyan limud, sharing your name b'yes kriyas Torah. What about learning during laning? Kvar kasav ha-mishabura v'ber halacha she'ein klal lahatir filu tamid chacham. So, in fact, he will renege, and he's going to say, no, there's no, even though despite the fact that we've shown him, we say that perhaps it's permitted to learn, he's going to, the Mishabura said, no. Even a tamid chacham cannot learn anymore today in the modern era. Why not? K'mo she'eid bala orcha shochan, even though arach shochan, because here's why, quote, Umiyamenu lo ra'inu v'lo shamanu sha'afilu hayoser gadol b'Torah yilmod b'shas kriyas Torah. He said, we have never seen in our day, this is Aruch HaShulchan, right? Basically a contemporary, the Mishnah Berurah, 100 years. We don't learn during laning. The Rav is going to learn during laning. That's not going to set a very good precedent. That's not very good role modeling. If the Rabbi learns during laning, then of course the Babatim are going to shmooze, right? That's a given. The rak im kfa. This is what I think Aaron was referring to before. The rak im kfa shama kriyas Torah. So like today I'm in this situation, right? I don't think anybody here thought I was walking around. I didn't go to shul this morning, right? Maybe, I don't know. Right? So I can't do 30 minutes. You guys were laning, so I was learning. I was looking over what we're going to do today. You can go shama kriyas Torah, or I'm going to go to the next minyan, which won't happen. Fine. And there's already 10 people. So if I'm the 10th guy, even though I already heard laning, I got to pay attention to laning, I can't learn. But if I'm the 11th guy, and I already heard laning, and there's already 10 people without me, everyone should recognize they already heard laning. So if a guy's walking, I think if you come to an Eid minyan, you're not wearing tefillin, people realize you went to your minyan. I don't think that's so, especially because you weren't doing the beginning. I think that's the...
Shabbos is a little bit more...
Okay, Shabbos is more problematic. When minyan you go to... But again, I think... I'll give you an example. Right, Kropkin goes to Shkam minyan, and then he shows up to another minyan to speak, and he shows up, and what are they up to? Between Aliyahs. And he pulls out a chumash. I don't think anyone's going to think, he's, he walked in during Shishis, he just walked into shul right now at 10:15, right? And then people realize he might have been earlier, and later out. Although the truth is, no one really knows, right? It's true, there's so many minyanim. You could go to minyan, initial 3 times a day, get there on time, stay the entire time, and not see people do the exact same thing for weeks on end, right? You would absolutely never know that they went to shul 3 times a day, and never see them in the building, in the parking lot, nothing, right? You just go to easy. You go to 2 o'clock mincha, then you go to 9:45 Mariv. You won't see anybody going to the regular mincha Mariv. So it could definitely happen. Okay. What time is it? It's 10 o'clock. All right, let's end there. We're going to end there for today. God willing, next time we'll talk about walking out in the middle of laning, and then we'll spend time on what is the proper mannerism. What's the posture when you actually get an aliyah? And then there's actually a fascinating conclusion to this section, which is the almost a shmorg of the laws of Kriyas Torah. Where I would like to next Tuesday. I have to be somewhere, but I want to see if I can get at least 10 minutes of learning in. Next Thursday, I don't know how many of you are still going to be around, but we'll see what the story is. Have a good day.